Hello, on tonight's episode of the Women's Rugby Treehouse, we review the round one of the Women's Six Nations, go into depth over the Wales-Scotland game, and then previewing Wales, England, and Scotland versus France. We also give our predictions for round two and discuss some serious fashion faux pas. Hope you enjoy.
You're listening to RAP, the Welsh Women's Rugby Appreciation Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Women's Rugby Treehouse. As you can tell, I am not Hugh. In fact, I'm Harley. Hugh is in trouble with Thistle the cat for missing feeding time, so he's had to miss out on this pod. But I am joined by the other Captain Doctors in Julia and Shans, and we're also joined by two debutants on the podcast in Hattie and Leslie. For the guests first, Leslie, as this representative of Scotland, how are we?
I'm good. I'm very well, thanks. Another day done. One day closer to the weekend.
Feeling really good about that win.
Yeah.
Hattie again. So Leslie's done podcasts with you before, and believe me, I can't remember. There's been too many pods, but Hattie, I think this is a closer podcast debut for you, certainly in
This is
rugby.
actual debut.
So how are we feeling with the first cap nerves?
We'll get there. It'll be. We'll see what it is at the end, I guess.
Excellent stuff. Now, Julian Shans, how are you? Since we last spoke, there haven't been any real scandals.
I know I can't cope, really. I need a scandal. Keep me going.
I think that's how we managed to get this scheduled today, was by just planning on doing it like 20 minutes before we jumped online. We narrowly escaped any scandals. But I'm keeping an eye on Twitter. I'm gonna see if we get yelled at. I'm gonna see if anything fucked up happens.
There's still time.
There is so much time.
I mean, it's all currently in the men's game with Drop in the Region. I'm not going to say you're more than welcome to listen to the Rap podcast for our feeling for the sort of pod family's feelings on that. As Hugh isn't here and he is the main organizer and he's any proper mum should be. He gets us all. He makes sure our outfits ready for the next day. We know what to talk about. Said you've got me and my very loose cannon way. So we're going to go straight into Scotland v Wales from Saturday. So unfortunately, Wales went down 24-21 in Sean Lynn's first game as Wales head coach. I'm just going to let the floor open. Whoever wants to speak first, tell us their opinions.
Well, I'm curious, Leslie, what you thought of the Scottish performance, especially because there have been so many questions about can they continue the upward form that we were seeing from last Six Nations? What do you think?
I'm pleased we won, obviously. But I don't think, and I don't know if the weather played its part, but I didn't really see much in the way of progress from Scotland, particularly. Don't get me wrong, they did some nice things, but they always do some nice things. And it was much of a muchness without anything that I thought, oh, wow, this is new. They've worked on this, which is a little bit disappointing, given it's a World Cup year. But it's only one game at the end of the day. And it was pretty horrific weather. We'll see how the rest of the six.
Is it giving you any confidence going into France week?
No, not really. Well, I say that. It was really close last year. It was 15-5. And they probably should have won it.
And I mean, the rugby and the rugby world mumbling is all that if anybody is going to beat Scotland this year, if anybody's going to beat France this year, it's Scotland. So
I no.
Yeah,
no. I don't think so. They're not unlike the men in a lot of ways. They do lots of good, but
to what effect?
There's not enough there to get them to the next step yet. I have some issues around the coaching setup.
That was going to be my next question, actually, because that's been something that they've been addressing, and it seems like something that they want to highlight, which I found kind of weird, especially coming from being a Welsh fan. We spent so many years trying to keep all the spotlight off of our coaching, Scotland has seemed instead to be really proud of the progress that they're making with coaching. But
I think Brian Eason he's a very experienced coach. He's been around forever. But our forwards coach, who is an ex-player, and don't get me wrong, he seems like a very nice man, no qualms about that, but his only experience that I've been able to look and find was 6 weeks in the Celtic Challenge with Glasgow Warriors last season.
was always
Which this is meant to be the pinnacle of the women's game in Scotland, and we're using a coach with no coaching experience or very little coaching experience. And I think it does the women's game a disservice. We should be using the best coaches we have, with the most experienced coaches we have, not a guy who finished up, 6 months ago and who's been dropped into the international women's team. I don't think, anyway.
Yeah, something that they tossed him to toss him something.
It feels a bit jobs to the boys. It might not be. I might be totally on the wrong track, but it very much feels like he's a good SRU guy. We want to give him something. Let's give him the women's job.
We need a forwards coach. Who's there? And he was there.
You were a hooker. That's fine. That'll do. And we want to professionalise the game, but we're using coaches that are brand new to coaching. And he may be a great coach, but
one day
there's no body of experience there. There's no body of work to say this is all I've done. I'm a great coach. I'm perfect role for this. And we have Matt Banahan as well, who has been with the girls for a while. Again, seems a nice guy and does seem a good coach, but he doesn't have a great body of coaching work behind him either. So we've got one good kind of coach and two brand new newbies to the coaching setup.
I do find all of this really interesting at Leslie, because obviously that I like the Scottish team a lot. There's a lot of the players I really like. I think Scotland have got a really good squad. You've got quite a settled squad as well right now. Yeah. And when the teams were announced last week, I thought Scotland were going to beat Wales by more than the scoreline ended up.
The way they looked on paper. The way
it looked on paper. To be perfectly honest, given the circumstances Wales are in, we've got good players, but I just thought, weighing that all up, and I don't know, I was a little bit obviously I didn't want Wales to lose, and I was really happy with how close it was. And people were going on about, Wales-Scotland games are always really close games, and I think people have a little bit of collective amnesia going on, because are they forgetting that game before WXB where Scotland put 40 points on us? I didn't think it was going to be like that, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel that you're not getting the best out of your squad, and I thought in WXB I didn't think you were playing anywhere near your potential. And I don't know, I just feel that is a little bit stagnated. It reminds me a little bit of Wales after we came third in the Six Nations, and then we just plateaued. It feels a little bit like that, which, I can see similarities.
I have a converse question then for Hattie about how you feel about Sean Lynn and the result that we had this weekend.
I think I'm being more positive. I think in the chats we've had privately, I'm probably the most positive out of all of us.
Well, you're here.
Personally, I think for 5 days turnaround, to go from having 40 points put on us against Scotland to it being a 3-point game, and you look at, when I was watching it, I was like, our discipline's not great, and our discipline was not good. I don't think our discipline was great. But actually, when I went back and I looked at the stats, actually we conceded less penalties than Scotland did. I think we conceded 9, they conceded 12.
Surprisingly.
We had obviously 2 yellows that became a red. Scotland had 1 outright red. That's not great. If we can get those down even further, perfect. But when you consider that up until this week, we'd never had a defence coach before. We had a forwards coach who was moonlighting as a defence coach, when our biggest problem since at least the World Cup back in 2022 has been our defence. I went back and watched the Scotland game from the World Cup, And again, we'd conceded over 20 penalties by the end of the game, which
That's a
is
really good comparison.
absolutely horrendous. And I was watching the last sort of like 10-15 minutes of that game. It's on YouTube. It's the World Rugby uploaded it. It's literally like the last 10-15 minutes. And they literally conceded something like 5 penalties in like 2 minutes. And it was just one after another. And they were absolutely stupid penalties. Jazz Joyce gets a yellow card for a knock on. And it's those types of things that just kept happening. And this was literally a minute after another player had come back on the pitch for a yellow card. And those problems have been festering over the last 3 years. So to see that our penalty count was under 10, it wasn't great. And obviously Georgia had those 2 yellow cards, which added on top of the discipline problem. But I was still quite happy, not happy with it, but I was relatively...
There's improvement. There's market improvement.
And I think I'm really interested to see what happens with our discipline over the next couple of games to see if that improves even further. The other thing that I keep I've mentioned it a couple of times on Twitter, and I had Lisa Neumann's sister actually was like in my replies being like, yeah, this is really cool.
Shout out
Yana. Was the fact that the back 3 were kicking a lot more. Usually it's just left up to whoever's
a lot more freedom. I mean, Jazz Joyce kicked.
Yeah.
We're all like,
several times.
Unless it's KP15 or Lakey's hanging out in the backfield, that's the only time that anybody in that back 3 is kicking. But Lisa Neumann was kicking, Jazz kicked. Like, there was so much more freedom in that back line. And I was like, even though I'm a back rower through and through, I was so impressed with that. So yeah, there were some issues with that game, but I was a lot happier. I can definitely see that there's huge building blocks. And I'm just glad it wasn't a huge rip up of the game plan, and it wasn't a complete copy of Gloucester Hartpury. It was somewhere in that middle ground.
How do we feel about, and for both of our representative teams, how are we feeling confidence going into next week? I know, Leslie, you said no on France, but are you expecting at least to see an improved performance, or would you not be surprised if it's a plateau?
I would not be surprised if we do much of the same that they've always done. As you've said,
it all goes back to the coaching.
It's the. I don't want to diss the coaches out like they're bad coaches or not, but it does feel a little bit stale and a bit flat, I guess. It's just, I don't see enough to think, oh yeah, they could really challenge this French team. I thought France looked pretty good. Didn't look perfect by any means, but
they look like they've gone up a level a little bit this year, don't they?
Yeah, compared to last year.
Turned on the burners a bit.
To last year, yeah.
All right, let's just be real with it. We know Wales has England. What do we think?
I think, well, obviously I don't think we're going to win, but I think if we can just compete with them a little bit and just kind of, I talked back about a couple of years ago when we played them at CAP and we had them for the first 30 minutes. If we can kind of, do a bit of that and rattle them a little bit, it is definitely going to be a case of if we can do that and score a couple of tries and hopefully keep the scoreline down, I'll be happy with that.
I was going to say, oh, sorry, please.
Sorry. Last year, if I'm remembering correctly, apart from France, Wales kept England to the lowest score.
Yes,
they did. Yes, so, you're right, yeah.
Like, if you look back at the CAP game that Sian was talking about, you look back to last year, I think if we can look at the first half, see what happens in the first half, I'll judge it off that. The second half, I'm not as confident about.
I think. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, so last time out was 46-10. So do we think?
That's what I was going to say. Is if we can cut the point differential down, that's a win.
And the Wales skid, are we looking to bring one up and one down?
Yes.
As long as that gap is narrow, we too bothered. So one bit of news that's come out today is with George Evans receiving a red card with 2 yellows. That has been deemed enough sanctions, so she is free to play. So, question I do want to pose to all of you is: do you think, given the problems we had with her discipline, because especially playing in the back row, it's a bit more of an obvious position where you can't get away with some of the things she might get away with at Saracens in the second row. So, do you think George Evans should keep a place on the team? then B, do you think she moves into the second row if she stays on the beat, and then C is just what other changes would you like to see to the side for England?
I think there's too much competition now in that second row for her to move directly into it. I think when she was in the second row before for Wales, there wasn't enough competition in it. But
it was a utilitarian purpose. Like we had her and she knew how. It's a trained position. It's not one you can throw anyone into. And she had it.
And Abby Fleming just played the game of her life.
Really great game. And Allow has been going from strength to strength. We know we got her in our pocket too.
And she's like, 5'11", 6 foot. She's our tallest forward. And then you've got Gwen Crabb, who is set piece masterpiece. Yeah. So why would you mess with that?
It's fine. So you wouldn't have Georgia at 8 again then?
That's the thing is it's a shame though because she is a turnover machine. There is value to having her.
I wouldn't be surprised if she's left. I think if Alcal or Alicia are back, I wouldn't be surprised to see her be dropped.
Dropped outright or bench?
I think
dropped outright. I'm fine with rolling the dice. I think dropped outright.
I wouldn't be surprised if she's dropped outright, purely because I've seen before where Sean Lynn for Gloucester, people have had red cards or people have had discipline issues.
That's a good point.
And he's left them out for weeks afterwards.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that.
So I think it was who is it? Sarah Beckett before has had red cards.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
come back for her ban. She's been available and he's not played her. So I wouldn't be surprised if he follows that through, because that was the turning point in that match, was her getting that second yellow. And she was warned. They were all warned about high tackles multiple times.
I quite like having Beth Lewis and Kate Williams on the flanks. They I don't know, I quite like that. I quite like that balance.
Really balanced.
Yeah, it is nice. We just lack. I think we do lack just an out and out number 8 though, don't we? Really.
At the moment,
I believe you're referring to. Hang on, let's see if I can do it right.
Gwenny Hops.
It's Gwenny Hops time.
Oh, it's Gwenny Hops.
Yeah, but Gwenny Hops hasn't been playing 8 that much for Gwalia.
Yeah, because to make way for Bryony King. So that's what I'm saying, one or the other. Although I think Gwenny...
But Bryony King plays a lot all over the... they're all hybrids, aren't they? I just feel like we never seem to have someone who's just that specialist.
Which is really weird because historically we have had stalwart 8s. We've had Sian Harris. We've had Sian Littlecrab. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
But Gwenny Hops has had some injuries, so I don't know if she's been playing 6 because she's lost some speed.
It could be. She hasn't... I do feel she's been a little bit up and down, Gwenny Hops. I think she had a bang to her head and she hasn't seemed quite... I don't know if she's, quite back into it since then.
That'll do it.
Well, yeah, I know, right? It'll be. I think it's interesting to see. I'll be interested to see what Sean Lynn does. I was thinking about this yesterday. I was thinking, is he going to just keep the same team? Is he going to tweak? I think he'll tweak because I think he knows he needs to look at combinations, which is kind of a little bit annoying. And we had this before with Johan picking about 25,000 different centre combinations, but because
none of them worked.
And he always went back to the same 2, and it was the slowest centre combination of all time.
Centre on the at least one centre on the wing as well, which is what I
will. And by the way, I will say that is something that I think that the Scotland-Wales game really exposed, is when you see the caliber that you can have. And for all of the things that we knocked Scotland for, one of the things that they have is a really tight 11 through 15. And sometimes
the 10, back's great.
Sometimes 10 for sure. But still, it's something that Wales have chased for what feels like years and just cannot connect.
Yeah, 100%. And I the 10-12 thing with Wales, I'm not sure really worked on Saturday. I prefer to see Katie Powell at 10, I think, and have a go.
I really think there has to be I know I'm one of the few people who beat the drum, but I feel like it's fair to ask the question at 10 when we've had so many troubles there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
KP10.
Unleash the KP10 robot.
Unleash KP10.
you know, it's a shame that we didn't have any like warm-up games like the men do. You know, they have the autumn internationals. It's such a shame we just go straight into Six Nations and then
And that a quarter of our players were playing in the final a week ago.
Yeah, that too. So I think it's possible that you might tinker a bit more with the selections. It'll be interesting to see. I think England will pick a different side to what they picked.
That was going to be my
Italy.
other question: do we think England is going to pick a side that, in my opinion, I feel like they picked a side almost to insult Italy. I'm sorry, if I were Italy and I saw that, I'd be like, oh, you think I can't play rugby? Honestly, I expect them to do it again for Wales. I think it's part of John Mitchell's whole like I'm projecting swag thing. I don't know. I don't like him that much as a coach. That's just me.
I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? Like, I don't know how much we can take from that Italy game, the England-Italy game, because England picked a bit of a weird side, and then they sort of took their foot off the gas. Or was it Italy actually played really? Like, you can't. It's just really hard with games like that, isn't it, to tell?
And especially for we do have to at least touch on the other teams. And I was going to say, it's why I'm really not. I was going to ask the panel what we think about Italy, Ireland, just because that's one I don't really know. Ireland will win, but I don't know if it'll be a walkover. And I was curious what everybody else thought.
The Italy-England game was one of the weirdest matches I've ever watched.
It was bizarre.
That was why we're having trouble. Yeah, we're having trouble like putting our fingers on it. I don't know what it was, but it was weird.
It was so weird.
The team played well. Like, Italy played terribly, and so did England.
But still, Italy played terribly, but still managed to keep England to one of their lowest points differentials with them over the past 3-4 years that they were showing.
But I don't know if England, almost got to a point, it was like there was like a switch in England's brain where they hit 4 tries and then they were like,
and then we're like, forget it.
I think they switched off. I 100% do. I 100% think it.
And they did this really weird. So before the game, I don't know if you guys caught it. Coach was speaking, he was saying like, oh, one of our like big things for the year is that we've got a whole squad approach. So everyone's getting game time, you know, everyone's playing. It's not just about the starting 15, you know, everyone's.
Yeah.
I think because if you look at the last World Cup, they had so many injuries going into that final, and there were so many people who, in theory, they had a couple of caps, they were red roses, but they weren't test level, they weren't red roses level, really. They shouldn't have been taking on the Black Ferns. And then there was also people who never had the approach of like, they were just used to scoring 70 and they weren't used to defending. And obviously they played that Canada game, and you had Ellie Kildane, who is World Player of the Year, and she's having to defend for long stretches, and she lets off a really stupid yellow card because she's frustrated. So I don't know if there is some sort of game plan of like, you hit 4 tries and then you have to defend. I don't know if that's their game plan or whether it was just a weird match and they just let their foot off the gas. So I don't know if they're playing like Mega Mind Rugby or what.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. I think they just
do you not think it kind of devalues the Six Nations a little bit with England constantly rotating? It's a bit of an FU to the rest of the teams, like, we're so good, we'll just rotate, it's fine, we'll win anyway, kind of.
Exactly. We'll bring in a bunch of our 19-year-olds who, you know, kind of star on their PWR teams every week. Whatever, doesn't matter, you're so bad. That's how it felt.
But then it sucks when they're going out and they're winning, you know.
Right, and you don't want them walking last year.
They're damned if they do and damned if they don't, really. To be fair to, I mean, I don't like being fair to Red Roses, but no, to be fair to them, if they win by 60 points, everyone's like, well, they're the Red Roses, they should be winning by 60 points. And if they don't win by that many, then everyone's like, oh, they, you know, played shit and all this kind of stuff. So they kind of, they're just so far ahead of everyone. It's frustrating.
But we have been one of the groups of people, among several, not just us, that like, I simply don't feel that they are still so far out ahead that there will never be catching up. First of all, it doesn't help us. It doesn't help us to believe that anyway. But also, there is evidence that there is that there is improvement elsewhere. Nobody thinks they're going to beat England in this Six Nations, but like eventually there has to be a point where someone can, right? Or
Oh, absolutely.
what are we doing?
I do believe that. I do, I think they're kind
No,
of
I mean, I
just,
know what you mean. It puts us in a shitty spot.
I think Wales will beat England. They might not, it might take a few years to do that, but I think I'm really confident that we can.
I think someone has to, because somebody has to capitalize on the hubris. Surely you can. The Black Ferns, they played Ireland and they played a squad that shouldn't have been playing, and they thought Ireland for sure is going to be a walkover, and they biffed it.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to happen.
And look how Canada could have beaten England in the WXV.
Yep.
I mean, effectively, Canada are amateurs, and they were playing the Red Roses, and they could have beaten them. Not a lot of the press mentioned this. They kind of like conveniently didn't mention that
because it's so embarrassing to the Red Roses that Canada is actually very close. And in fact, we talk about all the problems that face Scotland, that face Wales, that face Ireland with not having a strong domestic competition, but like you don't know what it's like not having a strong domestic competition. Most of the girls in Canada do not play together. Anytime.
They don't even have a competition that's across the entire nation. Like
Correct.
It's
they have to do it regionally.
Like it's that bad.
Right. And if you can pull together the skills and the will to do it, you can have, whatever. Everybody knows this podcast is very strongly Canada to win the World Cup. but go Canada. But I really do think I would assume that somebody in the Six Nations will eventually see what Canada is doing and be like, we could do that. I'm curious who.
I genuinely think so, but it does take time and it does take investment, and we need the WRU, we need the Scottish Rugby Union and the Irish Rugby Union to basically back their teams. And a lot of that is to do with pathways as well. And you can't.
I was just going to say, I don't know
how a pathway overnight.
And I don't know how long you can rely on all three of those nations individually doing their own thing and being like, well, let them see how it goes. Giving them no chance. I mean, we're glad about the Celtic Challenge. This is where this is leading. We're glad about the Celtic Challenge because it's the closest thing that they've had to getting to have the competition at that level. Ideally, Celtic Challenge keeps getting better, and maybe that will be the pathway. But that's one pathway, man.
Yeah. And you touched on it just then. The unions are each of the Celtic.
They all have their own plans too.
Yeah, and they're all using the Celtic Challenge differently. So yeah, there kind of probably needs to be a bit more of a unity on that as well. Yeah, there's a lot to fix, but I can see. I don't know. I feel like there is that shift. I think there is a bit of a wind change. I don't know how everyone else feels about that. I do feel like there is a bit of it's starting to happen.
For me, I think of it as looking, and forgive me for this because I'm going to have to, because it is a great example as far as looking at Italy, doing the Italy men's side during their Six Nations. So it started off, everyone basically just threw out their B or C team, whatever, and Italy were getting nilled. Then all of a sudden, Italy started getting better and better and better, and the titles started getting narrow. So then teams started having to put stronger and stronger 15s out. And then all of a sudden, they were putting their first choice 15 to try and get as many points. And then it looked like Italy got them much worse because the scorelines got much bigger. And I feel like what we're seeing now is England are at the stage now where if they put their first 15 out, they will obliterate both sides. So what is now, it's now on the other teams to keep improving, to try and bring that lower. So you're earning the right to play the full Red Roses. I mean, they'll always have the argument, oh, we're just building depth. Because if we lose a key player in the world, in a World Cup semi-final, then we need to know we've got someone who can take place because they've cocked it up so many times since 2014 now. I'm going to say since 2014 they kept cocking it up.
Sorry.
Arguably, they have lost, like when they lost Zoe Harrison like a couple of years ago when she went out with her injuries. Like they had that little crisis at 10. They've had, a couple of those kind of big crises where they were absolutely had those key players in those positions who were dominant in that position. They were the starter. The person behind them really wasn't very experienced. That person gets injured and they were screwed. And
Or
they
you
don't-
have something like Just Breach and Abby Dow at the same time. You start seeing this.
Yeah. So, and it's not like in some other nations where the difference in kind of quality and experience is maybe that gap is a little bit smaller. When you've got the Red Roses and the experience and the kind of expectations is so high, when you're asking somebody to go from PWR level to Red Roses level, that jump has got to be absolutely enormous. And so it's almost unfair to expect a player to jump to that. So I kind of get why they're doing it. It's hard to hate on them too much. I mean, I want to because they're England, but
I agree.
No, but also, what are they to do?
Yeah, what are they to do? Yeah, I totally get it. Like for example, how do you replace Mo Hunt? I'm convinced
Right.
she's the GOAT, right? She is just the best. You can't replace her. It's just, they've got to, she is sort of towards the end of her career. We don't know when she's going to retire, but they do have to think about who's going to come up next. Lucy Packer there. So, I understand the thinking. I do get the logic. I actually think Wales have got more depth coming up in scrum half, but that might be for another conversation.
7 and 9 is always going to be positions of power in Wales.
We
Hence why so many of our
have some
nines end up
good
going
scrum halves coming up.
to other nations.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's why England had to steal Lucy Packer, isn't it?
I know. Steal it from Cardiff Quins, but
So I think we've sort of covered two. We've covered two of the three games so far, and coincidentally, 2 of the 3 red cards that appeared in that game, which is still. I love the fact that we have as many red cards as matches played at the moment this time. It's not great, but it's also just quite a quirky stat, and there's going to be one of those pub quiz questions for Sian in the future. So the last game. So the last game we're going to cover is actually the first game, which is France beating Ireland in the Kingspan Murder Dome. Leslie, is Scotland going to play France next? 1, did you watch the game? And 2, what were your overall thoughts?
I did watch the game. I thought we might see France that we saw last year, which were a bit out of sorts, weren't great, but they certainly looked this year so far from what we've seen anyway that they look a bit more together, for want of a better word. I was expecting it to be a lot closer than it was, but France just sort of showed their class and did what France do. Yeah.
They never looked like I personally felt I never thought they were going to lose it. And at half time, the Irish commentators were like, "Ooh, Ireland have given away soft tries and we can still win this." And I just felt like, I don't know, they just didn't look like it to me.
No, Ireland didn't look as good as we might have thought they were after their WXV performances, but
do you think there might have been a bit of overconfidence or pressure maybe?
Yeah, maybe pressure's the right word.
Because there has been a lot more pressure on Ireland. I've seen it a lot in the Irish media.
Yeah. I sort of maybe bought into that and thought, oh yeah, maybe they, I know it wasn't the best, Black Ferns team ever, but they still went and did it. And I thought, oh, there's France haven't been that great. Maybe there's a reasonable chance that they can do this, but like you say, when you're watching the game, you're like, no, Ireland are not quite there yet, and France are not as poor as we thought they were.
So, Hattie, sort of as a fellow back row, I'm sure you're very clued up on goal kicking, like myself. So obviously in that game, Ireland scored 3 tries but didn't make a single conversion. Yes, you can talk about them being out wide and being difficult, but the fact is that if they'd made those conversions, you're looking at 27-21, and that's a much that actually makes that game a lot more closer than it is. And I was talking on Caitlin's podcast on Sunday morning, and we were saying, like, do France go for the 3s if Ireland are that little bit closer because they've made those conversions? What do you? But the other thing I wanted to touch on is Do you think Ireland was with the overconfidence thing? Is it because in Celtic Challenge for the two Irish sides, it's a walk in the park, and because they're up against much more developmental teams. Do you think they're not realizing they need to step up that little bit more for international because it's so easy at club? Similar that gets similar thing that gets accused with Leinster at times because they don't win the clutch games because it's so easy in the season.
I think that Dana might have the yips. I honestly think that's what it is. Because if you look at, and her name has absolutely escaped me, which I feel terrible about because I follow her on Instagram. Oh, it's come back to me, Nicole Foley, who is the Clovers fly half. If you just waffle, the name will come to you. So Nicole Foley, she made quite a lot of her conversions in the Celtic Challenge, and she was kicking a much higher percentage than Dana was. But I don't think she's as good as an actual player and as a fly half as Dana is. I think Dana is the superior fly half, but Dana's goal kicking in the Celtic Challenge was poor, and it got significantly worse as the competition went on. And it became quite obvious that it was getting worse. And there were times where she was coming off like 20 minutes before the end of the game, and you could argue, well, they were so far ahead. If they were 60-0 up, why not bring her off so she doesn't get injured? But then whoever was going on to replace her was making the kicks and she wasn't, which is really odd because she's been quite a reliable goal kicker in years previous. In fact, I know I've had conversations with people before on Twitter where we're kind of talking about how she is one of the more reliable goal kickers. And I think she had, I believe it was when Ireland were in WXV3, she actually had one of the highest percentages in the entirety of WXV, if you included WXV2 and WXV1 as well. And she had the longest kick in WXV history, I believe, as well. So she's a reliable kicker. I just think she's got the yips. So I don't know what the answer to that is. I think Ireland have got other kickers. Enya Breen can kick. Stacey Flood can kick. I don't know whether they just hand the kicking tee to somebody else for a little while and take the pressure off her. I believe she's 21, 22. That's a lot of pressure to put on somebody that young, because it's been months and it's actively getting worse.
Yeah, it was bad. The Gwalia home game when Wolfhounds, they scored ridiculous amount against Gwalia, but I think she missed most of the conversions.
I was just going to say, and
it was so noticeable.
And a lot of them are not difficult.
It matters this time is because of the likelihood of scoring on Italy. Otherwise, I don't even know if we'd need to have the conversation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily I think it was less of an issue in the Celtic Challenge, but I think she just got the yips. Personally,
shall we go around and give our predictions?
Yeah. Do you want to go game at a time, or each person go for the games? So just for anyone who isn't aware, the game's coming up, and just as my wife tries to call me, so it blocks the screen. So games. So on Saturday, So on Saturday we've got France Scotland at 1:00. Then it's Wales hosting England at 4:45, which I'll be honest, I quite like that as a time slot. And then on Sunday we have a classic Six Nations fixture in Italy hosting Ireland at 3:00 on the Sunday. So go on, start with guests first. Leslie, you want to give your predictions for the?
You want just the winner or the score?
Winner, and by how many, if you really fancy. I think winners for a lot of them.
That's actually perfect. I like
that. France by 20.
Wow. I did not expect you to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Scotland girls, but I'm not convinced yet. But you never know. England by 40. Sorry, Wales, but
That's fair.
I think Ireland will probably win. I'm going to go Ireland by 10.
Thanks, Seth. Hattie is the other guest.
Oh, this is really hard. So the first game is France, Scotland, isn't it? So
Yes.
I'm going to say France by maybe 15.
Ooh.
I think they're going to take penalties. I then have a bit of a bold prediction for
Oh.
Wales versus Scotland. I think England's going to win, and I think it's going to be like 20 odd points. But I wouldn't be surprised if Wales get a try bonus. I think they might get 4 tries.
I'm in.
I think they scored
I
4
don't
tries
doubt it.
last
I'm in.
Six
Totally in
Nations.
for that.
I can't remember the last time we scored 4 tries in a whole tournament.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we managed to get 2 tries against them last year. And then
And we don't
England,
hate ourselves this year, so who knows?
yeah, we don't hate ourselves this year. England managed to usually nil Italy, and Italy scored on them twice. And Italy had tries disallowed against them. So I think we might get a try bonus point.
I think that's fair, and especially from what we said earlier, if we really do predict that they might not field their absolute 15, that's totally fair. That's why I'm in. Totally in.
I think that would be an amazing result, actually. If Wales scored 4 tries, I think that would be incredible. Sorry, go
Then
on.
it ended up being a try fest. That'd be great. All right, what do you think for Italy, Ireland?
Oh, I think Ireland by like 10. I think it's going to be closer, but Ireland will do it.
I think it's going to depend on Ireland's goal kicking for me.
I think.
True.
But then Italy's goal kicking is not good either.
But Beatrice Rigoni, the number 1 player.
It cannot goal kick.
No, but she says she can. I've encountered players like that before.
Yeah.
We all have.
All right, now with the regulars, we'll go Julia first alphabetically. So
Sure. All right, for me, for France versus Scotland, I also don't think it's gonna be a bloodbath. I would also say France by like 12 to 15 because I see some penalty kicks being taken. I'll go 12. I'll have the big faith in Scotland. France by 12. For Wales, England, I also have more faith than I ever had before for this. I really wish we had team sheets, but we don't. So without those, I will say England by 21. And I could totally see Wales losing bonus points. And for Italy, Ireland, I'm also going to go 10. I just don't think anybody's going to successfully kick.
For who? Ireland.
Oh, for Ireland.
and Sean.
Okay, so I think France will win by 10. I think it'll be a bit closer than people think, but I think they'll win by 10. I think Wales will lose. I think it'll be about 30 or 40 points. Let's go with 30, because I'm feeling optimistic. I think Ireland will win by. I think they'll win by 20. I'm just going to go with it.
Oh yeah.
All
right. Well, right before we finish,
I'm terrible at predicting scores. By the way, I'm absolutely terrible at this.
I'm terrible at it too. That's why I'm trying to brush right by it. I did want to throw out one more thing just because I have American privilege and we love to manifest destiny. I would like to say the Women's Elite Rugby, our new pro league here in America, just launched this past weekend. Both inaugural matches were really fun. They are both also available for free replay whenever you'd like on the DAZN app. I want to say DAZN, but you're not supposed to.
It's the best name ever. It's so American.
The DAZN app, anywhere in the world, free for everybody. It's been a lot of fun, and this weekend is also going to be super fun. We're going to see some more matches, and most importantly, we're going to see the last 2 teams that didn't get to debut this past weekend, both of which feature a ton of USA Eagles, the expanded squad for the USA Spring Tour and for Pacific 4 has been released. So knowing now who all the names who are fit and will be coming out to try to make that official World Cup squad will be on display. If you're listening to this and you love women's rugby, please do give it a look. Especially if you are an American rugby skeptic, give it a look. Hopefully it'll change your mind.
The memes and the sounds they'll be the thing that converts.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have to say, the first round was chaos. I loved it.
It was absolute chaos. If you like chaos ball, very much like every time America tries to play a sport that isn't traditionally theirs, it's a lot of fun. I'm really stoked that I got my Celtic friends to think it was fun. I didn't expect that.
Yeah. Do you want to see a back rower wearing leggings and blocks?
Yeah.
And this is the league for you.
There was like an 83-minute shocker, and Hattie was like, "Yeah, but somebody was wearing leggings and blocks."
Yeah.
Crazy.
As a retired back rower, it was the worst thing I've ever seen.
And yeah, any forward wearing leggings is an immediate 3-week ban for me. But it does give me community rugby vibes.
Harley. She then had blocks on top.
Yeah, where else do you go?
Yeah, because there's nothing to grip on with leggings. I've tried lifting people with leggings in training, and they're short, and they end up wearing hot pants.
I think somebody complaining about the leggings and lifting and blocks maybe hasn't lifted people. Maybe Hattie didn't lift people. We don't know.
It just seems like a safety issue. And also,
they worked, didn't they?
How did the block stick? I have so many questions.
Yeah. It's called American Ingenuity.
Oh, were the blocks on top of the leggings or the leggings over the blocks?
On top. They were on top.
Taped over.
The tape was on top of the leggings.
Yeah, taped over.
They're gonna move.
At least they won't get
just.
Have you ever been in Chicago in the winter?
It was a crime against rugby fashion, quite frankly.
Oh my god! New pod segment. Hattie, you're gonna have to come back.
It was that, and there's also a Italian winger that I find has very horrendous fashion as well. A men's Italian winger. So I've got multiple. I'll have to make a list for you.
And Capua, so 6-year-old boys are allowed to wear what they want.
It's not Capua, so he's allowed. He's only 12.
Right, after that diversion into fashion faux pas in rugby, I'd just like to say, if you enjoyed what you've listened to tonight, please give the pod a like and subscribe, or a nice comment on YouTube. If you make it nice and sarky, Lee, the producer, will comment back with you and try and enter a funny debate and see how ridiculous you can make the replies. It was including a weird and oddly fascinating thread about me and spreadsheets on the latest episode of Wrap. Other than that, please like the pod. We are on Blue Sky and the artist formerly known as Twitter. Hattie, Leslie, how can we get hold of you if people want to hear more of what you've got to say?
I'm on Blue Sky at Missile Panda. Catch me there.
And I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky at Claire Sourfix, which my name's not actually Claire, so please don't call me Claire.
That did confuse me when I first followed you. I was like, why are we calling her Hattie?
But if you like bake-off puns, you'll love
if you like baking puns, I'm down.
Listen, also, as well as, we are not getting any sponsorship from this, but if you like funny rugby themed merch, check out Leslie's store on. I've already forgotten what the app's called.
Redbubble.
On Redbubble. We will make sure to add a link in the description.
We'll get a link in the description. Some absolutely fantastic things there. I love having to explain to people in work what the Celtic Conspiracy is from the 2023 World Cup. But it's one of my absolute favourite mugs, and there's some like wonderful Alcal badges, Captain Dr. Rachel Malcolm, all sorts of that wonderful merch. And all I'd like to say is thank you, Hattie, thank you, Leslie, for joining us, particularly in this very rushed made pod where you've got 3 scatterbrained people trying to come up with a pod format. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Sian, for taking most of the hosting for me, because I just do not know what I'm saying anymore. And thank you all for listening to our ramblings. Have a good evening.
That was Wrap, the Welsh Women's Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. Until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.